So it's time for closing remarks and to close this conference, which I believe has been excellent. As always, each of you will be taking back your own conclusions, but also your own new ideas, new contacts, new friendships. From my side, one of the main conclusions is that this is a very important time to meet, and it's a very important space to meet. So first of all, on the importance of the time, we've heard that we are in turbulent waters, very much so. Already at the conference last year, there was quite a strong sense of urgency, of crisis, of risk, and of fragility. And I noticed that this conference also, there were many terms that were used that we thought belonged to the past, especially to the 80s, arms race and great power politics and risk of war, nuclear use and rearmament. So it's really time, as some of you also said, to focus on and find what unites us, not what divides us. And you all know that analogy with the white piece of paper you hold up with one black dot, and everybody, when you ask them, says it's a black dot, and they don't say it's a lot of white with a little black dot. So I think that would be a good analogy to keep focus on, and also to try to identify some common landing places, maybe in the plural, as Patricia also suggested earlier. And one thing that also came out of the conference last year is that crisis also means opportunity, drawing on Chinese wisdom. So this is also an important space to meet. It's a place that connects different regions. As we have seen, it also connects different communities. We have politicians, diplomats, EU, international organizations, think tanks, civil society here. But we also have different academic communities, which is quite important. And it's quite unique to have this network of independent non-proliferation disarmament think tanks, which gathers social sciences, the different disciplines within that, international lawyers, increasingly also natural sciences, and that is rare from those of you who work in those areas. So that is also a great way to communicate. The High Representative yesterday urged us to find innovative solutions, and that very much requires to think outside the box, to de-silo and to get out of stovepipes. And I think that's also something that we've been doing here together in this conference. And meeting space is also an opportunity to build trust. That was also a term that was used a lot. You can use trust in the abstract way. Often there's reference to trust between countries, but I very much believe that trust is also between people. So this is something that we build on a daily basis, and I think this conference also contributed to that. So if we want to find innovative solutions and fresh ideas, we first of all need to understand what the problem is, and that is also something that we've done at this conference. We've looked at the problems from many facets and many angles, and nuclear, biochem, different technologies, and also focused on the complexity, but there's no use in being hypnotized by the problem. At some point, you need to move on to look for solutions. So I think this is also something that we've done in the different groups, and that everybody here is very much encouraged to keep doing. And one part of that is the blame issue that was also referred to. There was a reference to attribution, which has a role. It's important in the sense of accountability and norms and laws. But we all know from relationships and private lives that just assigning blame doesn't get us anywhere. At some point you need to not discuss how we got from A to B, but how we move on. And for some reason, moving that realization from the public space into private space into the public space doesn't happen very easily. I think we would be a lot further if we all did that. So we should very much focus on moving forward, and trying also, a lot of the talk was about the worsening security environment. So we need to focus on how to make it better, but also we have to make sure we don't make it worse. Because when we look back at last year, this is in some senses what has been happening. And you also know that if you want to move forward, looking back is not so helpful. You can try that walking, running, or driving. It's never a good idea. So that's also something that is common sense and should be applied to the public policy space. One other quote from the High Representative's speech yesterday, which I thought was really useful. She used 3 C's: consistency, commitment, and courage. And I think if we all applied these 3 C's, that would also take us quite a lot further. And one other quote that Jacek used with reference to one of the speakers, which is to be an optimist in an intellectually rigorous way. And I really like that. I think we should all apply that and try to put that into practice for all of us. So before I move on to thank yous, I also wanted to say a few words about the year ahead from the perspective of the consortium and the network. We want to broaden the network, not only with regard to academic disciplines. We want to further expand into the natural sciences, for example, further expand into international law. But we also want to broaden it to have the full scope of EU member states represented. There are still 4 EU member states where we don't have any think tanks affiliated. We're working on that. And we also want to broaden it further in terms of associate countries. There's also research capacity there that we can draw upon. And there was a very interesting idea that was voiced about also connecting more globally with think tanks, with research capacity in other parts of the world. And I think that is something that is very much desirable, and we can discuss further how we can put that into practice. We also want to expand the network in terms of gender balance. We are still working on a good gender balance in the network, and also in terms of the next generation, to have a good representation from all the different age groups. And talking about the next generation, this is also something when we look at issues ahead. I encourage those of you who are present here to look at the new job opening section that we have created on the consortium website, and also the internship opportunities that are advertised there. And for all of you present here, I encourage all of you to have a look at the website regularly, because there are publications and there's information about all the different initiatives from the network members, not only the consortium, but there are also currently the 60 NPD paper series publications on a huge range of issues, and we will continue that series on non-proliferation disarmament. We have a number of publications lined up on nuclear, chem, bio, small arms, emerging technologies. So please go and have a look at those. Also, I encourage you all who haven't done so to subscribe to the monthly newsletter that our friends from Italy are coordinating for us, and to have a look at the e-learning modules that will also be further updated and expanded, and that's the colleagues from PRIF in Frankfurt who are coordinating that activity. In terms of activities and events ahead, we will continue the ad hoc seminars. We've had some on manpads on landmines already. Our friends from VCTNP will organize another visit in Brussels, study visit of the UN Disarmament Fellows, and they're also working on designing a non-proliferation awareness seminar for the natural sciences. There'll be another consultative meeting, which is in a way similar to this, but in a smaller group in the EU. It's not international. And there will, of course, be another international conference next year, which I hope that our Italian colleagues will again be prepared to organize. We don't have the date yet. We will do our best to not organize it as close to the New Year and Christmas break as this year, but you will know as soon as we know about the new date. So with that, it's time to say thank you. And the first thank you, of course, goes to our colleagues from IAI, the Italian Institute of International Affairs in Rome. They've done an excellent job, I believe, in organizing this conference. So I would like to personally mention, but I know the team has been larger, Ettore, Federica, and Georgia. I think all of you have met them in organizing this conference. I was the lead person in organizing this conference last year, so I know how much work it is. It's a lot of work in the beginning, and then at some point it starts taking over your life. So thank you for thank you very much for doing that. And I have more thank yous, but let us give them some. Yes, in a way it's like a relay race. I don't know if any of you have done any of them. Once you arrive, you really don't want to do another round. You want to hand it to somebody. So last December, I was very happy that I was able to hand over to Ettore for the lead for this conference. So the second thanks go to the EU, and that follows on to what Laura already said, who have funded not only this conference, but all the activities of the EU Non-Proliferation and Disarmament Consortium and the network. And I really think that this cannot be taken for granted. It cannot be taken for granted that the EU and the member states really value independent research. And I think that is something that we should appreciate. And they have, through these initiatives over the last 6-7 years, also strengthened the capacity of research in this area. So thank you very much for this. Another round of thanks goes to the speakers. I think we've had fantastic panels, really interesting contributions, and I also don't take it for granted. It's the week before Christmas, everybody's busy, everybody has things to finish, so thank you all for coming and making the time. And the last thanks goes to all of you, the participants and the network members, for coming here, for being very actively engaged in the discussion. I've been involved recently with discussions on the NPT, and we've also heard references about the first committee. Another thing that cannot be taken for granted, unfortunately, is respectful, civilized discourse. And I think that is something that we have practiced here. And I thank you all for that. And I hope that is setting the standard for the next year, also for the NPT and first committee debate. With that, I would like to thank all of you, wish you a safe journey home. Enjoy your lunch. Thank you.